guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. This is from a guy. He is 45 years old and is going to share his story about events that happened about 26 years ago when he was in the military. He was 19 years old at the time, I think in basic training, and it was a time period where as a young man that he let his head down south do all his thinking rather than the one up here. And he meets this gal, thinks she's hot, thinks she's amazing, and next thing you know, he's in a relationship with her. And then thinks it's a great idea to marry her after like 1 year. Yeah, smack. And as you can imagine, things don't go too well when you rush into things like that, don't get to know somebody, etc., etc. And let me tell you, there's a lot of lessons here about red flags and trusting your gut, which he did not do initially and got him into trouble. However, guys, even though it doesn't go well and doesn't end with him well with her at the time, he was able to learn from his mistakes, and now years later, he's doing great for himself. He's living the life, the type of life that I think all you guys would want to live. And it's a perfect lesson to show you guys that even though you mess up big time when you're younger, you can make a comeback, learn from your mistakes. And the overwhelming theme of this story is don't rush into marriage. Listen to your gut, pay attention to red flags, and pretty much how you can always learn from your mistakes and do well later on in time. Because we all make mistakes. So anyhow, guys, this is a quick one, but I'll get into this and we'll show you once again all these types of lessons. So it starts off, he says, Hi SSM. I'm a long-time listener, first-time emailer here. I've been thinking about this for a while and have now decided to share one of my stories with you in hopes that one or more of your subscribers would find my experience helpful in some way. Bro, every story I do here that you guys send in, I know for a fact helps somebody somewhere. Whether it's here in the United States or on the other side of the world, it helps somebody. So all you guys that do this, thank you. It does help out. And, of course, it's entertaining as hell. In this story, this is about how a cheating ex-fiancée saved my life with her actions and choices. These events occurred between 1996 and 1997. As such, my memory is a bit hazy, but I still remember the events that had a big emotional impact. And he's saying here she saved his life. He is turning a bad situation into a very painful but important learning experience, which you'll see more as I go on. This starts out during my time in the Army. I was 19 at the time, and this was my first real time being away from home for any significant period of time. During advanced training, I met her. We were both training to be Patriot missile operators. She was smart, brash, confident, and beautiful. My first reaction to meeting her, named Jen, was this one is going to be trouble. Aha! Already, right there, your gut told you this one's going to be trouble. But because she was hot and you're inexperienced, you listen to the head down south, not the one up here, which most guys do, including this one right here, and got me into trouble plenty of times. It says here, boy, this is going to be true after about a year. Very early on, I noticed she was interacting with a married guy that we were both training with. And his last name was R. I'm speaking in code here because I want to give away last names. I don't really remember much about him other than he drove a high-mileage Nissan Maxima and had a kid or two. He was older than us. Jen and I were roughly the same age at the time. My first instinct was that he was trying to get with her. You know what I mean? That kind of like the impression. Didn't have any evidence to support it, but it was just a vibe. Well, trust your gut. And I'm sure he was. He was away from his wife and kids and figured he can get some. And she was enjoying the attention of a married guy. Because, like you said, she was young, probably like 19 years old, just like you. As we were quickly approaching our graduation from our training, I was becoming more and more attracted to her. Well, if you spent months at a time with a bunch of dudes, with maybe an occasional girl, yeah, any gal walking around that was under 300 pounds and had boobs, you'd be attracted to, sure. But I get your point. She ended up moving to her permanent duty station in Texas before me as I was still waiting for a security clearance to process. This is only slightly temporary, but at 19, time moves very slow than at 45. Within a few weeks, I was also stationed at my permanent duty station also in Texas. Shortly after this, we started dating. This was my first adult relationship and I lost my virginity to her. Uh-oh. So already that's going to have an effect on the connection you have to her. I'm not sure if I was her first or not. Early in our dating, she told me she lost it to a guy from her basic training, but later on told me that I was her first. Yeah, that's a bunch of crap. No way you were her first, and I'm sure there were numbers that probably would, now, knowing what you know, not surprise you, but back then would probably scare you. I should have taken this as a red flag. So you know now. I think what most attracted me to her was I was very cocky. Attracted her to me was I was very cocky, not taking crap from anyone, but the more I fell for her, the more I was starting to become a simp. Aha. So just like a lot of guys in the beginning when they first meet a chick, they're pretty much themselves, right? But then the guy starts really liking the girl, and that's when guys tend to change. They start becoming pleasers. They start being more accommodating and compliant and doing things they think they should be doing to attract her, which typically comes from brainwashing from movies, TV, probably when guys talk to other women and listen what they say they want in a guy, stuff like that. And interestingly, they stop being the type of guy that attracted the girl in the first place, and the girl gets turned off, and that's when shit starts. So it's important, guys, you don't change who you are thinking that I'm going to get her to like me more by behaving differently. Newsflash, she liked you already. Just little tips. This isn't the relationship channel, but tips that I throw in from time to time for you relationship guys. He says, I was still confident and cocky, but growing up in the 80s and the Disney brainwashing, along with how my father approached relationships, taught me that a man should be a chivalrous knight. This was largely my mindset at the time. Yeah, and guys, you're going to see how that mindset screwed him. No white knights. No Captain Save-A you-know-whats. That's a common theme in all these stories and what happens to these guys that do that. He says, after nearly a year of dating, I asked her to marry me. Smack. 1 year. Now I get this is 1997 or around there. There's no YouTube. There probably weren't access to books. So you were about my age. I'm 44. You're 45. I didn't have the same resources too. I was a bonehead nice guy too and clueless. But I sure as hell didn't get married when I was 19 or 20 years old. So yeah, you deserved a good smack. But you're young and you learn. He says, I was on a soldier's salary. I didn't have much, but I purchased a ring for her that was expensive for me. This was done at the height of our relationship. I remember all the passion and love we had for each other at the time. So you thought. She initiated as much as I did. Never I felt closer to a woman during that time. This emotional high would change very soon and come crashing down. You mean the honeymoon period was eventually going to end? That's what they call it, the honeymoon period. It's brief. But the problem is people get so just mesmerized and possessed by the honeymoon period. They think that's how it's going to be forever. And the problem is they don't listen to people that are older, more experienced, that can tell them it ain't going to last. You can still have a good time together, but that thing in the beginning that you feel, that's not going to last forever. One day in the motor pool, I collapsed during the mid-morning sun performing maintenance checks on machinery that we were assigned. I wasn't able to keep any fluids down at all. In the desert, heat-related injuries are pretty common, and I just attributed my symptoms to heat stroke. However, as I was getting treated in the hospital, it soon became clear that I needed an appendectomy. If you guys don't know, that means he needs to get his appendix out. And at 19, 20 years old, that's a normal time frame, I think, that happens. I had to get my appendix out too, but I was 36. And when I had pain down there that caused this, the doctors couldn't believe it. They're like, dude, you're 36. But had it out, just like this guy's about to. I had the surgery and was given around a month of medical leave to recover. Sounds about right. For the first time I ever had staples on me to help heal. During this time, I remember regular communication with her and things. I felt were okay. However, late into my leave, I just had this nagging feeling like my spidey senses were going crazy. And that something was just not right. Well, you know now, after being 45 years old and life experience and things you learn on this channel and other channels, that when your senses are telling you something's wrong, listen to them. However, late in my leave, I just had this nagging feeling that blah, blah, blah. We also had a breakdown in our communication frequency during this time, and she was less emotionally available. How interesting. You're now married now, and you talked about that emotional high you had, but now you had to have surgery, and you were out for the count for a month. You couldn't really do a whole lot physically. And all of a sudden, communication's breaking down. All of a sudden, she's not quite there for you anymore. There's a sign about not exactly the best person to be married to. There's a sign of why you spent a lot of time with somebody for years. For even consider that, to see what they're like during the ups and downs and things like that. That's where you see who they really are. He says here, the best way I could describe this is that she felt she was very disconnected to me toward the end of my leave. Upon returning, she picked me up from the airport. I let her use my car when I was on leave. I know, smack. When she picked me up, she was not affectionate or anything. All I wanted to do was return to her, but she was very distant and cold. On the way back, I made some sort of comment about us being intimate, and she said, I don't think so. When I asked her why, she told me we would talk about it later. So you get back, and she's all cold to you and everything like that. What does that say? When a woman starts acting cold and distant, obviously their attraction for you is dropping. Whether it's something she's doing or something you're doing to cause it, but her attraction is dropping. And usually, if it's not already happening already, she's cheating or will in the future. Or will break up with you. And wait till you see what happens. Later that evening, that's when she dropped the bomb on me. While I was on leave, she told me she felt very distraught. And he says, I'm paraphrasing. And ended up sleeping with R. There you go. Distraught. Distraught because you were on leave, medical leave. You know, you had to recover from the surgery, from the having your appendix out. She's distraught. This is what happens when kids get married and they're not ready and rush into things, etc., etc. See what I mean? I know you know this now, dude, but I'm sharing this story to help young guys out there. And by the way, how many times have I done stories about guys in the military that got married, and the second they were deployed or whatever, their wife was cheating left and right? How many times you guys heard those stories? I had thousands, tens of thousands of comments from dudes all over that have served or known dudes that served. They got married too young in the military. They were deployed, and the girls are like, bye. And then they're off to the singles bar, hooking up with dudes, taking off their rings. You all get the point. Do not get married while you're in the military. Wait until you're out. Anyhow, so she's sleeping with R, the married guy. Imagine that. She described most of the encounter, and needless to say, she physically emasculated me right there. She was describing in detail what she was doing with this dude. Yeah, she's definitely emasculating you. And obviously, you can tell by her behavior that along the line, probably him being the nice guy and all that, she lost respect for him. I'm not saying that's right, but it's just what happened. Probably one element is because he rushed to marry her. Because remember, guys, I tell you all the time, you take your time, not only to get to know them, but to make them work to get you. And when a guy rushes to a relationship, let alone marriage, that quickly, it tells her, this guy doesn't have a whole lot of options. This guy's easy, and I'm going to lose respect for him. And obviously, you were being the Mr. Nice Guy, and obviously, stopped being the dude that she was attracted to initially. So she lost interest. She went after the guy who was a challenge, right? I'm not saying it's right, but this is how it is. This shocked me to the core and took me a very long time to recover from. I should have left, but I became very emotional, and she ran out of her barracks room, running to the desk guard on duty. I could barely eat or function for the next week. We eventually did get back together, but I was so paranoid, and nothing was ever the same after that. I had to beg for intimacy. Smack. First, she admits cheating on you, and in detail, I might add, to a married dude, and you got back with her? That's it, it's over, my man. And she's treating you like crap because you think she's going to be any better? You think she's going to be a good wife? No, she's a cheater. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Okay? And look what happened when you needed her. You're recovering from surgery. See what I mean? And telling me that you had to beg for intimacy? No man should ever beg anybody, man or woman, for anything. I mean, it's not exactly going to be attractive to her if you're there pretty much begging on your hands and knees, please, 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 with sugar on top, suck my you-know-what. That's not going to go very well. Real men don't beg. You should have been out of there. But you were young, you didn't know. And he says, and she disrespected me at every turn, constantly showing attitude where before she was very submissive. She almost seemed disgusted by me. Yeah, she probably was. Because, I mean, think about it. If you're begging for sex, of course she's disgusted. No masculine man would do that. She probably wanted the masculine man that you were before. that she was attracted to in the first place. Okay, I'm not saying this to be a jerk. I'm just pointing out where this dude went wrong. She's a piece of garbage. We can all agree there, but this guy made mistakes. Should have been out of there, my man. The second round of dating didn't last long. For the remainder of my tour of duty, I felt broken and had nightmares of her with other men. Well, they were probably more like premonitions because very likely she was hooking up with other dudes. I was a shadow of my former self. See? He knows he wasn't his real self. It took a long time and a lot of therapy to move past this. Scars still remain, and this encounter left me with PTSD. These symptoms have long since faded, and the partners after her have always enjoyed being intimate with me, so I guess someone was obviously wrong there. Good. You moved on and you proved her wrong. Now I am single, making over 6 figures, in the gym almost every day, and enjoying life. Awesome, bro. That's how it should be. And you're 45 and you're in the gym all the time and doing great for yourself? Good. And I know, in your mid-40s, I'm sure you've had some injuries in the gym. But you keep going. You can't bench press like you used to. You can't do squats like you used to. But you do what you can. For you guys that are in your 40s and up, you all know what I'm talking about here. But you keep on going. You do what you can. But, bro, good. You moved on. It says here, dating Jen and having her cheat on me taught me a lot of hard lessons in female nature. I have no doubt that she not only cheated on me back then, but she would have had if we actually got married. Oh, my mistake. You didn't get married. Somehow I missed it. Okay, guys, my bad. He didn't get married to her, but he was engaged to her, which is close enough. She's like, hey, he gave me that ring. We're engaged. I can do whatever I want now. So thank God you didn't get married to her. Okay, my bad. But you almost did. He says, so at the very least, better she showed me her true nature rather than much later on. Now I don't put up with any sort of disrespect from women, and I gotta say, life is very peaceful now. Good. You can't put up with disrespect because the second you put up with BS, things like what you described earlier will happen, and in varying degrees depending on the woman. He says, don't become a simp and don't let people walk all over you. I hope this story will help others, and I wish we had male authority figures more accessible in the past to teach us how to be more masculine. Thanks for your voice and all you do, SSM. Well, bro, you're welcome, and thank you for having the balls to send this story. We're obviously made some mistakes, but we all understand that because we all make mistakes too. This is how you learn. But guys, he took a bad situation and he screwed up, but he learned. And now 25 years later, mid-40s, he's kicking ass. He says he makes 6 figures, he dates chicks when he wants to, hitting the gym all the time, and he's happy and at peace. And obviously he's not married and doesn't sound like he's in a serious relationship, so that's part of the big peace thing. So guys, even though we all make mistakes, even though we do a lot of dumbass things when we're younger, you can learn from them and move on. That's the important thing here. And you're going to make mistakes now. Shit, I make mistakes still, but I make sure I learn from it and never do it again. But the lesson in this story is, guys, always listen to your gut. Always pay attention to the red flags. Listen to this head here, not the one down here. The one down south gets you in trouble, and we all know this, okay? And, of course, again, a guy can hit the bottom, make mistakes, but he can turn things around and have a good life, okay? Because a lot of you guys watching this, I know from your stories, either are married or in relationships and they're bad, you're unhappy. You can get out of them. You have to start over, and it'll be hard at first, but you can get out of that and move on and have a good life. You just have to be willing to go through the pain in the short term to get through it, and you're going to be okay. And believe me, you got plenty of dudes out there that have been through the same shit and survived. And believe me, they're cheering you on, especially for those of you guys that send your stories in for me to share. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let this guy know what you think. Give him a good, show some love for his turning things around, living the good life. And also, guys, if you have a great story you'd like to share with me, something that you've gone through or you've overcome, or a crazy horror story, whatever, something good for this channel that you think will help out, email me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me time to get to it because I do get a lot of these emails every day, and the numbers are getting higher and higher. And if you happen to come across a good article, something that'd be good for the men's channel here, email it to me. I can't say I'll do it, but if it's a good one, I will cover it. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.